Candomble is a religion based on African beliefs, and it has as many as 2 million followers throughout the world, including in Brazil. It also represents a primary mechanism employed by enslaved Africans for collectively resisting abasement and oppression. This section of the course will provide a brief overview of those religious practices and mechanisms as they were manifested in Candomble, with specific focus on their origins in Africa. You'll have an opportunity to go inside an actual Candomble temple to examine firsthand the history and specific practices that so aptly characterize the religion. We'll also look at the most common orishas and provide you with information on how you might identify your own personal orisha. Candomble is a mixture of traditional Yoruba, Fon, and Bantu beliefs, which originated from different regions in Africa. It has also incorporated some aspects of the Catholic faith over time. A religion which combines elements of many religions is called a syncretic religion. And enslaved Africans brought their beliefs with them when they were transplanted to Brazil during the slave trade. From the earliest days of the slave trade, many Christian slave owners and church leaders felt it was important to convert the enslaved Africans. This was in order to fulfill their religious obligations, but also in the hope of making the enslaved more submissive. Others argue that enslaved Africans were religiously persecuted in order that they held no connection to a shared past. Although the church succeeded in many cases, not all Africans converted. In Brazil, as in North America, enslaved Africans developed encoded religious practices that served as primary mechanisms for collectively resisting the intolerable conditions of slavery and oppression. Many outwardly practiced Christianity, but secretly prayed to their own god or gods or ancestral spirits. In Brazil, where Catholicism was popular, adherents of Candomble saw in the worship of saints a similarity with their own religion. Candomble practitioners often concealed or encoded the sacred symbols of their deities while their corresponding Catholic saints remained. Many of the enslaved Africans from Bantu found a shared system of worship, and they relearned ancestral worship. The name Candomble means dance in honor of the gods. Practitioners of Candomble believed in one all-powerful god called Olodumare, who is served by lesser deities. These deities are called Orishas. They can also be called Voduns. Candomble practitioners believe that every person has their own individual Orisha, which controls his or her destiny and acts as a protector. The metaphor of protector is critical here because African slaves were people under the direst conditions of slavery and oppression, and indeed a protector was needed. Music and dance are important parts of Candomble ceremonies, and we'll examine these traits in greater detail later in this section. Specially choreographed dances are performed by worshippers that enable them to become possessed by the Orishas. When a person becomes possessed of their ancestral spirit during the ceremony, they may act out scenes from the community to highlight both good and bad actions in a sort of public tribunal. There is no concept of good or bad in Candomble. Each person is only required to fulfill his or her destiny to the fullest, regardless of what that destiny might be. However, this is not a free ticket to do whatever you want. Candomble teaches that any evil you cause to people will return to you eventually. This is a critical component of the practices because it is consistent with the concept of impending justice, especially regarding those who inflicted abasement and oppression upon Africans. Like many African-derived expressions, Candomble is an oral tradition and therefore has no holy scriptures. The first official temple was founded at the beginning of the 19th century in Salvador, Bahia, right here in Brazil.
I mean, here in the Gandois you have Tia Julia, which was the founder, African woman, which is this one, and this one, it's Tia Julia, succeeded by Pulcheria, which was her daughter, and succeeded by Maidininia, which was not the daughter of Pulcheria, but was some granddaughter. It's not very clear the kind of particular kinship link with Pulcheria, but was part of her family, succeeded by Maicleusa, which was a daughter of Maidininia. So in this particular house, in this particular terreiro, you have that the succession of the leadership is established through kingship. This is not always the case, but I would say that kingship is still an important element to aggregate, or at least the center of this traditional culture. Yeah, there are different elements that intervene. I mean, one is again divination, the shell game, but also there may be other signs. If somebody, for instance, experiences some sort of crisis or moments where she vanishes or has some sort of problems with health or has some sort of dreams, this can be interpreted as being a sign of the deity calling the individual. And it is by this different wide range of signs that the high priestess decides whether a person is requires to be initiated.
How does one ascend to being a high priestess?
It is again through this process. First you get initiated as a simple person that endures this initiation. You dance for many years and then you keep going, upgrading in the hierarchical scale. This is, and then again there's one moment when the high priest or priestess pass away, then it has to be decided who will succeed. Again, divination is an important element, but of course there's some sort of, normally there's conflicts at that moment, because there's always like power struggles, but somebody will normally emerge as the candidate more appropriate for the particular circumstances, and then divination will confirm that. You have the Angola Candomble, you will have Nago Candomble, you will have the Jeje Candomble. These are different nations which refer to different ritual practices and maybe pantheons. Maybe the pantheon is the same, but they have different names according to the nation. If somebody, for instance, has gone through an initiation, a first initiation, but because again you have a first initiation and then after 1 year you have to do a second initiation, and after 3 years you have to do another initiation, and after 7 years you have to do another initiation, and so on. During these periods of initiation you have to stay several weeks within the temple. You have to provide all the materials, all the elements that are necessary for these initiations, for the feast. And it's a very, and then you have contributions of other individuals that will help to organize this. People may want to be initiated, but the high priest will say, no, wait, or just go to this other place. So it's always a negotiation. It's not a simple process, and it's a lifetime compromise. Once you get in, you don't get out.
Condemned by the Catholic Church, followers of the faith were violently persecuted right up through the 1970s. For many followers, it is not just a matter of religious belief, but also of reclaiming the cultural and historical identity which slavery stripped them of. Practitioners of Candomble believe in one all-powerful God, or God as the One, called Olodumare, who is served by lesser deities, or Orisha. Olodumare is far too concerned with his own grand plans than to be concerned with the pitiful squallings of humanity. So the Orisha handle all problems beneath Olodumare's concern. Orishas are ancestors who have been deified and rule over the forces of nature and humanity. They may be from recent history, perhaps only 100 years old, or they may be from over a longer period of time and be 1,000 years old. Nevertheless, Orishas are a link between the spiritual world and the world of humans. Candomble practitioners believe that every person has their own personal and individual Orisha, which controls his or her destiny and acts as a grand protector. Certain Orisha are better classified into what is formerly known as the 7 African powers, and they represent the most well-known and celebrated divinities of the Yoruban pantheon. The following Orisha include these 7, as well as several additional, who are common to all Yoruban faiths. Although their names may vary, their characteristics will remain the same. Ashu. Ashu is the prime mover in the universe and the controller of Aish, the life and energy force within the universe. He owns the roads and doors in this world. Ashu stands at the crossroads of the human and the divine, as he's the messenger between the two worlds. Nothing can be done in either world without his permission. In Candomble ceremonies, Ashu is always called first before any of the other Orisha, as he must open the door between the worlds, and he opens our roads in life. People directed by Ashu are ironic, deceitful, ingenious, and very mischievous. They love a bit of drama and will do anything to stir things up and then sit back and enjoy the mess that they've made. Ogum is the god of iron, war, and labor. He's the owner of all technology, and because this technology shares in his very nature, it's almost always used for war. As Ashu opens the roads, it is Ogum that clears the roads with his machete. Those that take Ogum's path will always get things done. They're people that have an iron will, are result-oriented, and have a desire for competition. Oshala is the kindly father of all the Orishas and all of humanity. He's also the owner of all heads and the mind. Though it was Olodumare who created the universe, it is Oshala who is the creator of the world and humanity. Oshala is the source of all that is pure, wise, peaceful, and compassionate. He has a warrior side, though, through which he enforces justice in the world. Oshala people are intellectual, curious, tight-fisted, stubborn, observant, and very cautious. They paint the world in their colors because they're objective and manipulative. Oya Yansen. Oya is the goddess of the Niger River. She's the warrior goddess of wind, lightning, fertility, fire, and magic. She creates hurricanes and tornadoes and guards the underworld. People who are ruled by Oya are strong-willed, opinionated, independent, and dismissive. In private, they're always searching for something, turning over stones, investigating, prying, poking, hoping to reach a higher state of being or understanding. Oshun rules over the sweet waters of the world, the brooks, the streams, and rivers, embodying love and fertility. She also is the one we most often approach to aid us in financial and money matters. Oshun people are regal, coy, impeccable, vain, and materialistic. They can't see much beyond themselves, but if you treat them well, they'll put you at the center of their universe. Yemaya lives and rules over the seas and the lakes. She also rules over maternity in our lives, as she is the mother of all. Her name, a shortened version of Yi Omo Iya, means mother whose children are the fish, to reflect the fact that her children are uncountable. People guided by Yemaya are strong-willed, protective, and somewhat arrogant. They care about hierarchy and social status. They're judgmental and materialistic, and feel that all suffering brings just reward. Shango, perhaps the most popular of the Orishas, rules over lightning, thunder, fire, especially the drums and dance. He's a warrior Orisha with quick wits, quick temper, and is the epitome of virility. He's an extremely hot-blooded and strong-willed Orisha that loves all the pleasures of the world: dance, drumming, women, song, and eating. Shango people are self-important, boastful, larger than life, exuberant, and very well organized. They love to paint their town red, which is Shango's main color. Ashosi is the third member of the group known as the Guerreros or Warriors, and is received along with Ashu, Ogun, and Osane in order to protect the Guerrero initiates and to open and clear their roads. Ashosi is the hunter and the scout of the Orishas, and assumes the role of translator for Oshala, with whom he has a very close relationship. His colors are blue and yellow. Those guided by Ashosi will always know something no one else knows. They are intrigued by the other, race, sex, animal, human, and love to watch and analyze behavior. Oshumari is the rainbow. Oshumari is also one of the Orisha that changes sexes. Now, some Orishas, such as Ashosi, have a path of the opposite sex. Oshumari is male part of the year and female the other part of the year. As a matter of fact, in some houses, Oshumari spends half the year with a male top and a female bottom, and the other half of the year with a female top and a male bottom. Oshumari brings messages to us directly from Olodumare. As such, he or she, depending on the circumstance, is very important for our welfare. Those guided by Oshumari are dynamic, multifaceted, colorful, and unusual. They're masters of disguise and feel at home in a theater or in a carnival parade. Uwa is an Orisha of happiness, beauty, songs, life, and the beautiful things that life gives us. Wa is responsible for the unending cycle of transforming water into its various states and for the blooming of a rosebud. She is life itself. People guided by Wa are stunning, intelligent, pure at heart, and incredibly idealistic. Ibeji is worshipped or supplicated only by parents who have twin children, but he is widely respected by others because of his readiness to punish anyone who slights or abuses twins. Osane is the herbalist warrior. He uses the wild plants to effect cures and to add the power of plants to ceremonies. Those guided by Osane always yearn for their spiritual forest. People intrigued by new visual, even physical sensations belong to this deity's wooded realm. Yana is as old as dirt. In fact, she is dirt. Yana is the essence of the earth, of the planet. She loves swamps, deserts, and mountains, and her children. She often manifests as a kindly old grandmother with a plate of cookies for her grandchildren. She carries a staff made of canes or reeds which has a looped end, and people guided by Yana are born old and prefer the company of elders to people their own age. In essence, they're old spirits. In summary, we should remember that in Candomble, as in traditional African society, there is absolutely no distinction made between the sacred and the secular realms of life. Since Brazilian oppressors prohibited enslaved Africans from practicing their African form of worship, those Africans encoded their beliefs into the spirits and the magic of Candomble. The prevailing focus on various orisha, as well as dance, song, and drumming, truly represent a synthesis of the African experience into an effective mechanism that facilitated the collective resistance of enslaved Africans to abasement and oppression.